Havel Helpu Hunan self-help courses to improve your mental well-being.
Hello, this is Kathy Orris again, and this is the fifth and final session of the Stress Management and Relaxation course. So hopefully if you've made it this far, you've looked at the other videos, which I believe are up on YouTube. They're all under the one playlist now. So I would advise you to have a look through all of those. This final session is today just looking at refreshing yourself on all of those techniques that we've been learning so far. I'll be talking through another couple of techniques as well to use, and really it's going to be then helping you to set goals to try and continue this ongoing work of managing your stress and managing your anxiety. So I do hope you find it useful today and enjoy. Okay, so the first exercise we're going to talk about today is a really quick and simple one called the 10-second count. So you've probably heard of counting to 10 as a way of controlling any stress or anger or irritability. So this is what it's about. It's a 10-second count. It can give you that sort of headspace to get away from your difficulties, that bit of time out. But we're also using it as a mindfulness exercise again. So all we do for this one is make sure that you can use this in conjunction with other relaxations. So you can perhaps do some breathing before this if you want to, but make sure you're sitting comfortably. You're simply going to, in your head, count to 10. So don't speak it out loud, you just count nice and slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. When you get to 10, in your mind you go back to the start and count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you're going to just be repeating this in your own time, in your mind, just speaking it to yourself. And as you count to 10 and then go back to the start, you're going to keep doing that. As you do it, it's causing you to focus your mind on the act of counting. So it's going to leave little room for your mind to wander and you to think about all the other difficulties that are going on for you. So in that respect, it's quite a nice mindfulness exercise. It brings you back to the present moment of counting. So if you do this and you recognise that you're getting distracted, which is completely normal, maybe you lose track of the counting and you started thinking about something else. And again, that's completely normal, so you can be accepting of that. But just kindly then bring your attention back to counting. So perhaps you reach number 6 and then you get distracted. Just bring yourself back to number 1 and start again. You may notice that, you'll get distracted at different numbers, and that's okay. Simply just notice any time that your mind gets distracted, and then bring yourself back to number 1 and start counting again. Remember that your mind will get distracted, and this is the process of learning to be mindful here. It's noticing without judgment any distractions and bringing it back to that present thing that you're doing. In this case, the counting. So you can try that anytime you want to dampen down the stress level. If you want a little bit of time out, you can use it then. Again, with all of these things, it's really good to keep practicing this one. So the next exercise I'd like to show you is just another tool that you could use to try and manage your anxiety and your stress. And it's something that's very easy to do, something you can do throughout the day without anybody really noticing either. So in that respect, it's really helpful. So it's called feeling your pulse. Okay, so we have a pulse obviously going through all of our body, and most of the time we're not aware of it. But this is another mindfulness exercise just to bring you back to the present and obviously focusing your attention on the pulse. And we're going to focus the attention in the pulse that we can hopefully start to feel in our fingertips. So it's really easy. All you need to do is obviously sit anywhere comfortable or even lie down. But like I say, you can do this anytime, anywhere. People don't really know what you're doing, so it's quite good in that respect. So you just sit with your hands together. So you're going to have your palms together like that, with the fingers touching. And as you do that, just make sure you're nice and comfortable doing it. I want you to experiment a little bit with the pressure between your fingertips. So first of all, you can try sort of pushing your fingers firmly together, and then release the pressure, bring them apart slightly. I want you to experiment here and really become aware of the feeling that you're going to feel now. So that sense of touch in the fingertips there. So you're going to just question, how does it feel? Do your fingertips feel warm or cool? Is your skin rough or smooth? You know, any textures or feelings you can become aware of there. In time, as you do this, again, you might want to experiment with the pressure between the fingertips, but you might start feeling a little pulse. So just a little flicker, a little movement in between the fingertips. Now don't worry if you can't feel anything. Sometimes it takes a little bit of practice, and we're all made very differently. So again, it's just finding the things that work for you. Okay, so if you manage to find your pulse, you should just be aware of that little flicker, that sort of wave, that pulsation there. You can use this then as your mindfulness exercise. So keep bringing your mind back to that feeling between your fingertips. Every time your thoughts start to wander and you're getting drawn into different thoughts and emotions, just notice and accept all of those thoughts and feelings, but bring your attention back to that feeling of the pulse, if you can feel that, between your fingertips. If you can't feel an actual pulse, that's okay. You can actually just focus on that feeling, that touch between the fingertips here. And again, just keep bringing your mind back to that feeling time and time again. Okay, so you can see as you're sitting here, people might not even recognise that you're doing a mindfulness activity. You could just be sitting quite calmly here with your fingers together. So it's something to practice. If you've got anything stressful coming up, that could be something good to really ground yourself. You can do that as you're waiting for something. You can use it anytime. So it's a really, really helpful exercise. Okay, so now we're coming towards the end of our stress management course. And for the last few pages of the course booklet, there's some pages on putting everything together. So all of the things that we've been talking about, all of the things you've been learning, it's trying to put that all together and actually use it in your day-to-day life. Because it's one thing learning about the different tools and techniques to use, but then it's another to actually implement it in your own life. That can be more tricky. So this is where we go over everything as a reminder to try and help you to start using some of these things. Okay, so this page is putting it all together. it's asking for you to write down here some of the techniques that we've been talking about. So it's for you to have a think about what techniques have we discussed in this course that are going to be most useful to you to carry on. So I'm going to give you a little reminder here of some of the things we've talked about. Perhaps you might want to write down on a piece of paper, or if you've downloaded this booklet and printed it out, you can write it directly into there. Okay, so we started by talking about noticing the early warning signs of stress. So the physical sensations you have when you start to get stressed, and we talked about that stress thermometer. So on a scale of 0 to 10, how high the stress is, 10 being the worst, and what you're trying to do, what the aim of all of this is to notice things earlier on so that you're not sort of going to go straight into 10 stress. You're trying to notice it creeping up and then put things in place to stop it from escalating. That's our aim, really. And as we talked about, it's trying to bring that general day-to-day stress level down so that you're less likely to become triggered into that highly stressed or anxious response. So you might want to write down coping thresholds or stress thermometer. So being aware of that, that's the first technique. Okay, alongside of that then, we said, how can we bring down that general stress level? Well, we talked about some different lifestyle changes that you can do. So we talked about how important it is to look after our bodies and our emotions. So looking after our health is really important. Doing some exercise, just some gentle exercise that can really dampen down those stress hormones that we have. Looking after our diet, so fresh fruit and veg, drinking plenty of water, reducing our caffeine intake. So those are all important lifestyle changes. Being aware of taking drugs, alcohol, all of those things can have an impact on our well-being. So we might want to start making some changes to our lifestyle to try and help if our stress is really getting on top of us. Okay, so that was the second technique, lifestyle changes. Then we've moved on to the third technique, which is relaxation. Now, relaxation is very broad, and we talked about how people have lots of different ways to relax, and we talked about a few different relaxation exercises and how it's very important to find the ones that work best for you and how everybody is different. In terms of some of the relaxation exercises we've talked about progressive muscular relaxation. We've also talked about mindful breathing. Okay, so those are the main ones we've discussed. Remember, gentle exercise is really good as well in terms of relaxation. So I'm a yoga teacher as well. Gentle yoga is really, really helpful because it reduces the tension in our muscles. There's also other things like Tai Chi, Pilates. There's lots of different things out there to try to see if that helps to reduce some of the tension. Okay, and then moving on, we then talked about the next technique, which is mindfulness. So again, mindfulness is a very broad term, and we can use lots of different mindfulness exercises. We've talked about grounding exercises, mindfulness during day-to-day activities, such as eating, taking showers, walking. All of that is really, really useful. We've talked about mindfulness of sounds, and today we've also mentioned feeling your pulse and counting from 1 to 10. Okay, so those all come into mindfulness techniques. So you can write down, if you want to, any of those which are most helpful to you. Remember that this is your course. This is what's going to be most helpful to you, nobody else but you. Okay, so the next sheet in the course here is a relaxation log. So this is an optional one that you can use if you would like to, and it is a way of recording and monitoring how you get on with some of these relaxation or mindfulness exercises. So it asks you to try out some of the exercises, and when you do it, you can make a note on this sheet as to how you found each of these exercises. So it asks you to write down any comments of how you felt about it. And remember our stress thermometer that we've been talking about, so your stress on a scale of 0 to 10. You can write down how you felt before you did the relaxation. You can write down how you felt during it, and then rate your stress at the end of it as well. And when you do that, it can just be useful to see if your stress level has changed as a result of you doing the relaxation or mindfulness exercises. So if you notice that you start off at quite a high stress level, but then at the end of the exercise, then that stress level has come down a bit. Remember, we don't ever expect it to come down to 0, but if it has come down a little bit, then that's a positive result, and you should be really pleased and know that that's something that is helpful to you, that you might want to keep on trying. If you try an exercise and you look at your stress ratings and you notice that the stress rating hasn't changed, it hasn't gone down, then it may be that you want to talk to somebody, get some support with this, to really talk and discuss why this might be happening. So you might want to talk to your support worker in Havel if you have one, or anybody, any friend or family member who is helping you with your well-being at the moment. Or it could just be that this is not the right kind of exercise for you. Okay, and it's all about experimenting to find the ones that are right for you. It may be that you could practice doing that again and see if it does make a difference to your stress over time, and keep on trying it, and it might start to work for you. If it doesn't start to work, then try some of the other exercises instead and see if any of the others help you instead. It's all trial and error, but this is where the relaxation record, the log, can really help you to understand what works for you. Okay, so well done. We've reached the very end now of our course, and I hope you've found it useful. I hope that you can start to put some of these exercises into practice. This last sheet that I'm showing you now, this is our setting goals sheet. So this is where you can reflect on all the things we've been talking about and sort of see whether there's anything that you want to continue to put into practice throughout your life. Okay, so when we talk about setting goals, we try and make things very manageable and achievable. It's great to have really big sort of long-term goals, and it's good to have general goals, like my goal is to be more relaxed. But in reality, how do we make that happen? You need to break it down into little chunks. So breaking things into chunks can make it so much more manageable, so much easier for you to move forward. It's like little stepping stones that you go on. So we need to think about what are the first 1 or 2 stepping stones for you to do. So it could be that what we've talked about in the course has made you realise, okay, I need to try doing a little bit more mindfulness in my activities. And that's what I find useful, and that's what I want to try. Okay, so you can break that down into how are you going to actually do that? Okay, so in practice, how are you going to put it into your life? Well, it could be that you set a goal of every breakfast time you do some mindful eating of your cereal or your toast. So that's a really small little step, but one that you can build on. I always say small steps are the best than really big, broad goals. So let me think of some other examples just to tell you. So if your goal is to, again, just try to be less anxious, less stressed, and how can you do that? Well, actually, maybe I'm drinking lots of caffeine at the moment. Maybe I'm drinking lots of coffee, and that's stopping me from sleeping. So maybe just trying to reduce the caffeine is a good first step. You can break that down even smaller. So I'd never say to somebody, stop drinking any caffeine straight away altogether. I would say reduce the amount that you're taking very gradually. Do it in a slow process. So maybe, say if you're drinking 6 cups of coffee in the afternoon, maybe reduce it to 4 to start with. Maybe you want to add in some decaf coffee. There's lots of other options. There's lots of ways to problem solve how you can make these changes. Okay, so other examples then. You can think about other ways to relax. So maybe you want to do some more relaxation exercises. Maybe you want to try and do some before you go to bed. Maybe you just pick one of the things we've talked about, like the progressive muscular relaxation, and set aside some time to do it. If you do it at a regular time and tie it into your other activities, make it part of a routine, you're much more likely to do it. So if you were to tie it in with, after you've watched a bit of TV at night, when you go up to bed, you can lie down in bed and do just a 5 or 10 minute body scan, progressive muscular relaxation. Yeah, so there's lots of small ways that you can make these changes. When you're setting some goals, really try to be quite specific of what you're going to try and do, and set a timeline, a time limit of when you're going to be doing this. So maybe you've got a week where things are going to be a bit stressful and quite difficult for you. Maybe you want to set aside a time the following week to start with these changes. It doesn't matter when you start, but it can be good to put in your diary when you're going to start doing these things. Otherwise, you'll keep sort of procrastinating, which is what people that have anxiety or depression tend to do. We procrastinate. So we say, well, okay, I'll do that tomorrow. Oh, I can't be bothered, or I've got too much on right now, I'll do it the next day. We all tend to do that. But there's got to come a time, if you want to see the changes in your life, you've got to make those changes happen. There's nobody out there that can help you. There isn't a magic wand to wave to completely make you change just like that. The change has got to come from you. Of course, there's people around that can support you, and it's really good if you can try and tap into people who can support you in this process. But ultimately, that change comes from within you, not from something outside. So it's important to remember that, and to be kind with yourself when you're setting these goals, because it's not easy to make changes. I know myself, it isn't easy. But if you can just start by something really small, and just set that little stepping stone and you achieve that, it will actually snowball into this real positive chain of events for you. One little achievement will build, your confidence will build, and then hopefully you'll be able to achieve more and more things in your life. So the journey starts with the first step. So please feel free to use this form here, or you can write it down in your own way of any changes that you would like to do, specific and over how much time and how often you're going to be doing it. Who can help you along the way? And perhaps think, if there's any setbacks, what would these setbacks be for you? So what could get in the way of you doing these positive changes? Maybe it's things that crop up with family or where you're living. There could be lots of things that crop up to make things difficult for you. So it's worth sometimes thinking, well, if these things were to happen, how would I manage it? How would I overcome those setbacks? And it's very much about who can help you along the way, who can help you in that journey. Hopefully, this course and what I've been talking through with you has been that first sort of helping stepping stone on that journey. So you're already quite a long way along that journey if you've reached the end of these course sessions with me. So you should feel really pleased that you've made it this far, and I hope that all that positive work that you're doing for yourself continues for the future. Do please feel free to leave any comments, anything that you found particularly useful, or anything that you'd want to change, or any constructive feedback that you have on these videos would be really much appreciated. So please do leave your comments, and likewise, if there's anything else that you would like us to cover in the future in terms of other courses, of a self-help for you, again, please feel free to leave that in the comments as well. I wish you now all the best of luck for your recovery journey. Take care of yourselves.